I'm a big fan of the Sega CD. Even though it only had about 220 titles available in the US, it was home to some of the best games of the 16-bit generation. And in my opinion, a lot of that has to do with this little company called Working Designs. Now, when people hear that name, the first thing they think of is the Lunar series. And rightfully so. But on the other hand, they are responsible for bringing a little gem of a game called Popful Mail to the US that deserves just as much, if not more, recognition. If you're familiar with Popful Mail, I bet it's with the Sega CD version. There are a couple of other versions that preceded this one, however. One on the PC-98, and one on the PC Engine Super CD. In 1993, Sega and Falcom decided to collaborate on a full remake for the Mega Drive's CD-ROM add-on, the Mega CD. This remake would be completely done by Sega in-house, and would retain the basic elements like characters and music, all while taking advantage of power of new hardware. There was a time when Sega was flirting with the idea of completely overhauling Popful Mail into a Sonic the Hedgehog spin-off, and calling it Sister Sonic. Luckily, Sega came to their senses. I mean, Sonic with swords? That's an awful idea. In April of 1994, Popful Mail was released on the Mega CD in Japan. Though it was pretty much your standard 16-bit hack-and-slash platformer, Popful Mail stood out from the crowd with big beautiful sprites, anime cutscenes, slick animation, screen-filling bosses, and a rocking soundtrack by Falcom's own Sound Team JDK. As eclectic as the Sega CD's library was, even in the US, it seemed like exactly the kind of game that was destined to stay in Japan forever. Thankfully, that wouldn't be the case. Shortly after its Japanese release, a small company based out of Redding, California, named Working Designs, showed interest. Working Designs was known for being one of the only companies that was localizing obscure Japanese games to the West. My first experience with Working Designs was with the original Lunar, the Silver Star on the Sega CD. Lunar was the first game I ever played that made me care for its characters as if they were real people, a real testament to their writing ability. My connection to that game was so strong that it made me a fan for life. All I had to do was see one of their magazine ads, and I knew I was going to be buying. Popful Mail was released in the US about a year after the Japanese version. This was a fairly quick turnaround for Working Designs, who was well known for taking their time. Our story opens with the titular hero, a bounty hunter, being thwarted by the diabolical Nuts Cracker.
I've got you now, you little criminal! Eat this, cookie face!
Returning to town a failure, Mail sees a bounty for a good wizard gone bad named Muttonhead. With an impressive 2 million gold reward on his head, Mail sets out to bring him in. This might just be the one big bounty to give her a lifetime of riches and fortune. But it's never that simple, right?
Holy freaky creeps! I can't believe it! It is! It's Muttonhead!
Over the course of her quest, Mail will be joined by a couple of other adventurers. An apprentice wizard named Tado, who seems to have a history with old Muttonhead, and Gaw. What can I say about Gaw? Well, he's this blue bat monster. Screw it. He's one of the best characters in a video game ever, and that's all you really need to know. Mail and company will traverse a giant forest, mines, volcanoes, and ice mountains to collect their bounty. Turns out Muttonhead is under control of a mysterious man who is trying to collect 4 orbs to resurrect 3 great demon gods. Figures, right? Naturally, all 3 characters have various strengths and weaknesses. Mail moves fast, but has short attack range. Tado uses powerful magic to attack from long distances, but is fairly weak physically and can't jump far. Gaw has powerful attacks and can jump higher than any other character, but he moves so slow. There are some RPG-light elements in the form of upgradable equipment purchased via shops in each world. This gives each character different attack methods and is a nice incentive to change up playstyles. You can switch between characters at just about any time, except during boss battles. Let's be honest though, Working Designs was definitely most well known for their localizations. Love them or hate them, their translations were absolutely something relatively unseen on consoles at the time. Their writing made a habit of infusing lots of real-world pop culture references into dialogue. Maybe a couple of one-liners or the way a character talks.
And hey, I know you can do it, Melee. Come on, win one for the slickster.
That Working Designs humor, if you will. With Popful Mail, Working Designs decided to pull out all the stops and go full on with the comedy. At times, it can feel like a train of 90s references, but the way the humor is appropriated for the world of the game, nothing feels too out of place that is distracting. It almost feels like a Saturday morning cartoon.
Do you sometimes feel less than fresh? I know I do.
CD-ROM technology was at a point where the novelty of spoken dialogue had kind of worn off, but Working Designs was faced with a conundrum here. They had over 3 hours of it when the format only allowed for 1. By foregoing the typical Red Book audio that was used in most games at the time, therein laid the solution. By cutting the quality of dialogue in half and using variable bit rates, one for in-game dialogue and another for cutscenes, they were able to get all the voiceovers in there, and even add ones in places that weren't present in the Japanese version.
I guess I really underestimated the power and the resolve of these pesky flying blobs.
The laughs are plentiful and come quick. Just about every conversation contains some sort of humorous little nugget. King Lip's Daffy Duck homage.
As king of the land, I, Lips Noton, proclaim that you shall have whatever you request.
Gau's constant sass.
Muttonhead! You simple-minded paperweight!
And Sven T. Uncommon's amazing insults.
I am Sven T. Uncommon. Remember that before I crush your brain like a tiny juicy raisin.
There's just so much to love here, and the charm is off the charts. Popful Mail would see one more version a year later on the Super Famicom that, as you can guess, stayed in Japan. This version was done by Falcom themselves. It's fairly decent, but the way your enemies don't seem to react to your sword slashes gives it a loose, cheap feeling. And what's up with Mail's constant eye blinking? Unfortunately, this is where the series would end, which is actually kind of odd considering Falcom's propensity for sequels. It's really too bad we never got a follow-up with these characters, or even just anything set in this world. To this day, Working Designs remains one of my favorite companies, even long after their death. Considering the prices that their games tend to fetch on eBay nowadays, I'm obviously not alone. I fully believe that Popful Mail's legacy in the US was due to its writing. Of all their games that I've played, I feel that Popful Mail is the moment in time where that Working Designs humor worked the absolute best.